Well, this is our last week, and we're going to be discussing chapter 41, 42, and 43. We have gender and culture. Racial stereotypes are not only the issue facing consumers today, the use of gender stereotypes in marketing and advertising are also needed in elimination. The wrongful deception of genders has manifested into systematic discrimination, prolific inequality, and equality. The profoundly negative effects on self-esteem and self-worth, whether the marketing example depict rape culture, hypersexualized girls, or toxic masculinity, gender stereotypes are shaping attitudes and informing judgments and behaviors. Genders, as we come to understand, is fact merely a fabricated identity. The terms sex and gender are frequently used interchangeably. Though they have different meanings in this context, sex refers to biological category of a male and female as defined by physical differences in genetic disposition and reproductive anatomy and function. On the other hand, gender refers to cultural, social, and psychological meaning that are associated with masculinity and femininity. Beyond sex and gender, there's a number of related terms that are often misunderstood. Gender roles are behaviors, attitudes, and personality traits that are designed as either masculine or feminine in a given culture. Historically, the term gender and sex have been used interchangeably. Because of this, the gender is often viewed as binary. The person is either male or female. Assume that a person is gender matches the biological sex. Yeah, that's not always the case. With recent research, we separate the two. You have biological sex that's cisgender. 0.6 of the population identify with the gender that does not match their biological sex, like transgender. Also, you don't, it's not mentioned here, but there's something called intersexuals, and that's people that are born with both male and female reproduction, and also they have male and female hormones and also chromosomes. So they might have like an X or Y, and so they might have testes or breast, and if you check the DNA, they could be both male and female. So that's something to think about. I've only met one girl going to college my freshman year. It was kind of weird, but she was both. She wanted to be in our club, our volunteer club. And anyway, so it was fine. And that's the first time I ever knew about it. Well, actually, my senior year, I listened to Loveline, which then Dr. Drew, he was doing, I guess, like celebrity rehab with drugs. He did that recently, and then he was on like some COVID stuff. So he's always hopping the bandwagon on whatever is popular. But he studied medicine, medical doctor, and then went into more of psychology of like being a psychiatrist. But that's the first time I ever heard it. He was talking to some guy on Loveline, and he felt suicidal because his partner passed away of suicide because they're both unisexuals. Unisexual is part of the LGBT, but it's not by choice. Like I said, they're born with both. And there's some YouTube videos, there's even a TED Talk, and people talk about how they're both, and some of their parents did not let them, did not remove their extra organs. They let them decide to remove them themselves. So, like, some people may have female parts. And I watched a video, like a documentary interviewing people, and some people were sad because their parents chose for them, or one particular guy, his parents made him into a female, gave him female hormones, and then he met this woman and he wanted to be a guy. And so she said that was fine because he's born both. And then he ended up passing away from cancer, and they said it was from the hormones that they had injected during his teens. So, and then you have Jazz, which is a famous transgender. So yeah, some of these people, Chaz Bono used to be Charity Bono, Cher's daughter, the famous singer. So yeah, we know a lot of people that are transgender in the film industry, movies, celebrities. We don't talk too much about unisexuals, and it's not really mentioned here either. You have gender queer or gender non-binary. They do not want to identify or conform to either gender. Enculturalization, process which boys learn about and learn to perform manhood. Marketing to women has often been outdated and out of touch, reflecting male dominance in the advertising industry. Gender stereotyping, how do gender roles and gender stereotypes develop and become strong? Different treatment by gender begins with the parents, of course. Student op-ed, child's play involving adult problems. We have sex types, children toys. Simply reinforce already entrenched gender roles and stereotypes. Sex type toys expose children to gender stereotypes. Reinforce binary role playing and fail to foster collaborative and imaginary to play. Enact norms. These might prescribe what boys and girls should and should not do. We have enculturalization also comes into effect, which refers to the process of learning the beliefs and behaviors embedded with the dominant culture. Next, we have subcultures. Subculture, you may belong to a particular race, ethnicity, gender, culture, but your neighborhood could be a particular culture. Maybe you're from the city or you're from the country. Maybe you're considered a cowboy or a rancher. Maybe you're a city slicker. Those are nicknames, but those are different subcultures and communities. You could be in one state and live in different regions. They say like some people in Orange County don't go to LA County because of the orange curtain, right? Subculture is a group of people who share a set of secondary values, such as environmentalist. Many factors can place an individual in one or several subcultures. People in a subculture are part of a larger culture, but often share a specific identity to a smaller group. Material culture, people with similar income may create subculture. The poor, the affluent, the white-collar class are examples of material subcultures. Social institutions, those who participate in social interaction may form a subculture. Examples include participation in marriage, parenthood, retirement community, or the army. Belief system, people with shared beliefs may create a subculture such as a religious group or a political party. For example, traditional Amish do not use electricity and automobiles. Aesthetic, artistic people often form a subculture of their own, associated with their common interests, such as art, music, dance, drama, and folklore. Language, people with similar dialects. We have accents. The vocabulary can form a culture. Southerners and Northerners share traditional categories in the U.S. There's thousands of subcultures within Canada and the United States. Ethnic, racial groups share language, food, and customs of their heritage. Other subcultures are united by sharing experiences. Biker culture revolves around dedication of motorcycles. Some subcultures are formed by members who possess traits or preferences that differ by a majority of the society's population. 1900 to 1910 and to 2000, 2010. We can see like Bohemian. And we have Wonderful art movement, Jazz Wing Kids. You have Harlem Renaissance. You have Prohibition gangsters. You have gangsters. You have Westerners, jitterbugs, hipsters, beatnik. You can see a lot of this is influenced by art, visual art, as well as music. Then you have sports. You have R&B and rock and roll. From there, you have the Greasers. Remember the movie Grease? You have rude boys, skinheads, mods. You also have under rock and roll, you could have subcultures like bikers and surfers and skateboarders, or rockers and bikers and hippies and freaks. You have glam rock, punk rock, hardcore rock. Don't forget, in the 70s, you also had Black Power, Black Panther. You had Soul Train. That was fun. You had you have disco, which is American Bandstand. Those were some music shows. Hip hop. Then you go into like the music videos from the 90s. You have MTV. You have Beat. You have the music stations, VH1. I don't have cable, but when I was in college, I lived in some housing for grad students and international students at Cal State LA for my master's, and we had music videos. So we had like an old TV. We used to watch music videos on it. At least my roommate did. Like gangster rap, indie rock, and hipsters. Consumption subcultures. College and university age students represent both age cohort and subculture who may share similar consumption needs and wants. I'll show you a video. Subcultures throughout history.
Heavy industry with low emissions. Let's deliver.
We tried everything, but Charlie still struggled with math. Then another mom.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear. Okay, wrong speech. But it isn't. Now think about that. I'm supposed to talk about culture, subculture, undercurrent. We tend to forget that actually all our culture is coming from a subculture. After all, Shakespeare was considered very, very low in society. I mean, actors, artists were subculture. Now, what is culture, by the way? So culture is the mainstream product of a society, what is accepted, what is followed by almost everyone. But then we all know, because all belong to one, we have what is called subculture. Now, technically speaking, they always call undercurrent. But if you go to the dictionary, undercurrent is actually the current beneath the sea, which I guess figuratively it sounds okay, but it might not be what we're looking for. Now, subculture. Why we call it subculture? Well, first of all, it's a Latin word. Of course, Latin. Sub means beneath. But it's also been said that imagine a culture like a tree, okay? It grows, but it cannot grow without a seed, which is beneath the soil, and then, of course, the roots, which are also beneath the soil. So it's important for the growing of everyone. Now, another thing that is important of subculture is because we'll help you. Now, if you all belong to one, no matter what, and it will help you feeling maybe less alone, or maybe to belong to someone, or to have that feeling. Now, again, this is very sterile. This is very in the air. Now, let me take you a little bit through history, and let me explain you a little bit about this ancient or not so ancient subculture. Now, first of all, let's go to these days. According to the internet, which is of course the source of all knowledge, whatever it is, the number one subculture in the world is TikTok. Okay? So you think, really? TikTok means short videos? Now, let me just share with you a short story regarding how important it influences. Now, there is this very, very young guy from North Africa that emigrated in Italy 5 years ago, and he started making videos just because he was unemployed during COVID pandemic. And he started making this video in which he will make fun of people that will try to solve a small problem. He will make this very funny face. Now, if you look on it, his name is Kaby Lame. So he started with like a few hundred followers, just people that knew him. Now he's 7.5 million followers. It has been called to LA to assist to one of those social media events. Not only that, but he's becoming so influential that actually is helping his life. In which way? Well, he's not legally in Italy. He never actually got any paper. But since now he became very famous, a lot of people is noticing him. So because he's famous, he might get citizenship. I mean, he has been in Italy for the past 10 years anyway, but in the end, this is an exact example of how a subculture like TikTok can actually influence life or create another kind of culture. Later on, we're going to talk about the bad about this. Okay, now let's go with the good one. Another subculture, which is very, very famous, is what is called the trifecta, which is manga, anime, and cosplayers. Again, you might say, really? Reading manga is subculture? Well, yes, it is. Because trust me, comic book are still considered something for little kids, or at least a certain amount of people. And they all believe that until the Avengers movie came out and they made $7 billion and people say, yay, comic book money. Okay? So they start noticing this part. I mean, they've been publishing the Avengers since the 60s. I wasn't even born. But now they're noticing. So, cosplayers. Let's just take the cosplay. You know, during COVID, all the comic conventions were closed. But the cosplayers actually continue. And they made videos on YouTube, I mean, in their home. So they never really stopped. And these people continue making money because of visibility and all the ads they can include in their video. So this subculture is actually influencing the way business was conducted during the past few months. Again, another bright example. Now, let's go back a little bit in time. And let's go back to the 90s. Now, during the 90s, a lot of subculture were born. To contrast the 80s. Now, why the 80s? Because the 80s were the crazy times, were the times in which people were actually dressed very bizarrely and dancing to bizarre music. I know, I was there. I was one of you during that time. But then, during the 90s, they create another subculture, which was the grunge, the emo, other people that were against that. And they also changed the culture of those times. Let me give you another example. During the 60s, a little bit back in time, there were these people called hippies. They were not dressing with long hair, peace and love, all flowers and everything. They didn't last very long. But you know what? When the hippie movement finished, this subculture migrated into something else. So one hippie was thinking, okay, I don't want to do anything in life. Maybe you share that feeling. I mean, it would be lovely to not to work or not to do anything. So let me just invent something in which I can make money but not really working. This is how Starbucks came to be. Starbucks was invented because no one wants to really work. I mean, after all, if you are a barista, you just latte, cappuccino, you're done. Money. Okay? Another couple of hippies, or coming from hippies, they also wanted to do something else. So they say, okay, what can we do? So they start mingling with new technology. And they start creating machines that they were very easy to use and processing. And then a couple of years, let's say a decade later, they were billionaires. Please don't forget that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were nerds and hippies. Don't forget that. So this subculture actually creates something. Let's go back a little bit more in time. During the 1700s, Romanticism. Okay? You all study, or if you were awake during the literature class, Romanticism was born because it was a subculture. They talk about love and everything can be conquered by emotion. So, you know what they create? Very fast. They create horror novels. Horror novel create Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes create the modern culture. Forget about anything. Whatever you're reading and watching as a movie, owing to them. So subculture creates something. Now, what is the bad of that? Well, the bad of that is that subculture can be very can be very under. And sometimes it can be used by certain organizations in order to mine or to undermine a society. That's what the danger is of subculture. So subculture needs to exist, but sometimes people that belong to need to understand that it needs to grow. It's the same thing with high school. What is the bad thing about high school? Is that it's going to end. Okay? meaning that you enjoy it, you do a lot of things, you learn a lot of things, but then you just move on. Okay? So the subculture that you belong to might not be the same in very few years. Now, I want to finish because I promise I will keep this under 10 minutes. Okay? There are people that are staring at me. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which, by the way, is the title of a movie during the 60s. They were called spaghetti western, and they also were a subculture. Wherever you look at it, you can find that a subculture actually influenced us. So if you think that you are very shy and you only enjoy watching cats videos and you only enjoy talking with only two people in the world, no, you're not strange or bizarre. You are creating your own subculture. Thank you very much.
Okay. As little as tidbit about cultures. Some hipsters in the subculture like skinny jeans and chunky glasses and t-shirts with vintage logos. And that was real popular, right before COVID, and some people still dress that way. Where did it come from exactly? 1940s with jazz music on the rise. A lot of today's styles is yesterday's fashion, but just with a little twist. 1950s, we had the jazz culture winding down, many of the traits. The hip cap culture was becoming mainstream. The beat generation. Today's generation of hipsters rose from the hippie movement. We have race and ethnicity as subcultures. When subcultures are discussed in the context of a race and ethnicity, it's important for first to understand these concepts clearly. The average person frequently uses the word race and ethnicity interchangeably as synonyms, and anthropologists recognize race and ethnicity as overlapping concepts. A race is a social construction that defines groups of humans based on arbitrary physical and biological traits. They're believed to distinguish between other humans. An ethnic group, on the other hand, claims a distinct identity based on cultural characteristics and shared ancestry that's believed to give its members a unique sense of peoplehood or heritage. The cultural characteristics used to define ethnic group vary. They include specific language spoken, religious practice, and distinct patterns of dress, diet, customs, holidays, and markers of distinction. A few traditions, my favorite family recipes or distant customs associated with celebration of holiday originated from the homelands may be retained by family members across generations. Dude, what are you? Perspectives an open invitation to cultural anthropology. He writes in his own personal experiences and personal fascination with presumption conclusions regarding his race and ethnicity. Below is an excerpt from the chapter. This is what he said. Throughout my life, my physical appearance has provided me with countless unique and memorable experiences that have emphasized the significance of race and ethnicity as socially constructed concepts of American and societies. My fascination with subject is therefore both personal and professional. A lifetime of questions and assumptions from regarding my racial and ethnic background have culturalated my interest in the topics. I noticed that my perceived race and ethnicity, much like beauty, rested in the eye of the beholder. As individuals of different regions in the country and outside the United States have perceived me as different specific heritage. For example, as a teenager living in New York City, Pennsylvania, senior citizens and middle-aged individuals usually assumed I was white, while younger residents saw me as Puerto Rican or generally Hispanic, Latino, and I lived in Philadelphia. Locals assumed I was Italian American. But my Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Dominicans, and City of Brotherly Love often took me as Puerto Rican or Cuban. I have rather ambiguous physical appearance, a shaved head, brown eyes, a black mustache, and goatee. Depending on who asks, I have a pasty white or somewhat olive complexion, and my last name is a single factor that leads to the East Coast to include that I am Puerto Rican. My experiences are examples sociologists Michael Omi and Howard Winnett, 1986, refer to as racial common sense, a deeply entrenched social belief that another person's racial or ethnic background is obvious and easily determined. Brief glances can be used to predict a person's culture, behavior, personality. Reality, of course, is far more complex. One's racial and ethnic background cannot necessarily be accurately determined based on physical appearance alone. And an individual's race does not necessarily determine his or her culture, in which turn does not determine personality, yet these perceptions remain. Do you prefer listening to opera or hip hop music? Do you like watching horse racing or NASCAR? Do you read books on poetry or celebrity magazines? Okay, those could be also, different cultures as well. Maybe you're into gardening or homesteading, that's culture, or you're a vegan, vegetarian. I mean, now you're thinking, okay, I am in different subcultures now. I didn't realize that. Maybe you're into the earth. So maybe you're part of the Sierra Club and you like to do outdoor camping. Sociologists use the high culture to describe pattern of cultural experiences and attitudes that exist in the higher class segments of society. Maybe political power, prestige. Maybe you have wealth. Maybe you attend ballet, you like going to see plays, you're listening to your favorite symphony performance. Popular culture refers to a pattern of cultural experience and attitudes that exist in the mainstream society. We have a parade, we have soccer, football game, season finale of a TV show, rock and pop music. Pop for sure is popular. We have Games of Thrones, maybe you like to do that. I know people consider themselves part of like anime culture. Another culture would be soap operas. That was a big thing when I was a kid. They had like soap opera clubs at school, and you could watch soap operas during your lunchtime. We also have other cultures. Maybe you consider yourself part of cultures. I used to like to go running a lot, so I was kind of like into the running culture. I used to do like marathons and half marathons. That was what I did before COVID. And I also was into dancing. I love to go dancing, and I would just go to like church dances, and I just am a social person. So that was a lot of fun. It was a good time before COVID, I was exhausted because I work a lot. I was also going to school, but I also had my time to socialize, and I love dancing. Like my friends and I would say, we're not here to meet the guys, we're here to burn the calories. And that was so true. And then afterward, we would go to like Denny's or IHOP or North, something that's open 24 hours. You get pop culture. Anthropologists sometimes turn to non-conventional information sources to explore gendered culture, including popular television commercials. Interesting, the 2015 Super Bowl commercials produced always feminine products. They focus on gender themes like Girl campaign, which probed damaging connotations to the word throw like a girl, run like a girl, first asking boys and girls to act running and throwing, and then asking them to act out the running and throwing. This companion clip further explored the negative impacts of anti-girl messaging, provoking dialogue among the Super Bowlers and social media spaces. Although, ironically, the dialogue was intended to promote consumption of feminine products, as the clips remind us, while boys and men play major roles in perceptions related to gender, so do women who raise them, and often reinforcing gender expectations for play and aspiration. Of course, women, like men, are encultured into their culture, gender identity. Both girls and boys and adults are profoundly influenced by popular culture. Let me show you that commercial. This is from 7 years ago. From 9 years ago, I mean.
Shop Black Friday at Michael's now. Score up to 70% off thousands of items store-wide. Get epic deals on
the viral video seen about 14 million times that has everyone asking what it means to do things like a girl and the impact that has on young women and girls.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
It's the latest thought-provoking ad that has everyone talking.
Now throw like a girl.
Aww. The Like a Girl campaign for always. Ask what it means to do things like a girl. Run, fight, throw. And at first, it's seen as a snub.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
It's really shocking to see that, but if anyone over the age of 10 here is running like a girl, chances are that's probably what they're thinking about too.
But the ad flips that notion on its head when this 10-year-old was asked,
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
the campaign claims that most girls' self-confidence plummets when they reach puberty. According to the study, only 19% of girls have a positive association with the phrase, like a girl.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing.
The ad has more than 13 million views and counting.
From Pantene to Dove to Goldie Blocks to Verizon have all used a very similar message of both empowerment and also be more self-aware about how you think about yourself as a woman.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Always hoping to make a lasting impact and change the way we look at the phrase, like a girl, forever.
And I walk like a girl because I am a girl. And that's not something that I should be ashamed of.
I have chills, and that's like the 10th time I've seen it. Let's bring in pop culture and parenting expert Erica Suter. And Erica, I was watching this again with my young daughters last night, and I was thinking, if you put in, instead of girl, any other religious group, any other ethnicity, it would be outrageous. And yet somehow it's acceptable when we say girl. Can a commercial change that?
It absolutely can. This is a really powerful message because it treads on our biggest fears as parents. We want to make sure that our girls have a positive self-image, and that's kind of hard to do at times because they fall into this thing that they should be sugar and spice and everything nice, and they're not supposed to be tough, but they can be strong. And this kind of ad campaign can help change that image.
But it seems that when they're younger, these girls don't have that negative stereotype. So what changes the perception by the time they get to their mid-teens?
Right. Well, most parents notice there's a period where all the kids are doing the same thing, and then suddenly the boys want to play Ninja Warrior and the girls want to play Princess. And then we see this division kind of around 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it only gets exacerbated when they hit puberty because then girls are worried about boys and being accepted and fitting in, and that sometimes that means being girly and falling into those old stereotypes. So that's what's happening when they hit puberty, and it can be, it's sad. It's sad as parents to see.
Well, I'm a father of 2 9-year-old girls. I already have my hands full, but what can I do so that they maintain their self-image as strong, confident, and capable young ladies who are going to turn into women?
Right. It starts with you. It starts with us. We have to, compliment them not just on how pretty they are, but how smart they are, how capable they are, how talented they are. If they're interested in digging in the dirt and digging up worms and looking at rocks, encourage that. Don't just say, don't get dirty. And it also means bringing in aunts and uncles and grandparents and teachers and everyone else, because it takes a village to get that message across.
Because running like a girl, as they said, can mean winning the race.
Absolutely.
It starts with women we get to sit next to every day. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They run this show.
Fun fact, my friend tried out for Ninja Warrior. She didn't make it, but in the process, the guy she was dating respects her even more now. And so he was real proud of her, and he sent her flowers, for trying. Ninja Warrior is hard. You compete against males. And women, we are strong, but in reality, men are stronger than us, In reality, women are usually a little bit more soft. We're more nurturing overall, not all, but most. And, we're overall, a lot of us really good at baking and cooking and raising children. And guys are really good at doing, hands-on stuff. Like they could be hanging on a building and doing welding stuff. I know women that do that too. I knew a husband and wife. They were both motorcyclists, and they also did welding. They'd hang on the side of the buildings, and they would, helping to do the construction. But it was very dangerous. She said she showed me a picture of a guy who lost his thumb on the side of the building. Someone else, she said she saw somebody die. He fell through the roof. I guess they had a sheet, and he thought there was a platform under the sheet, so he walked on and fell right through, and he didn't have his harness on correctly, so he died. So it's a very dangerous job. But we have influences in pop culture. I just showed you that video. Sociologists distinguish subcultures from countercultures. That's a culture, subculture that rejects some of the larger cultural norms and values. In contrast, subcultures, which operate relatively smoothly with the larger society, countercultures might actively defy larger society by developing their own set of rules and norms to live by, sometimes even creating communities that operate outside the greater society. Counterculture in the US is 1950s to 1970s. United States, the counterculture of the 1960s became identified with rejection of conventional social norms in the 1950s, and counterculture youth rejected some of the cultural standards of their parents, especially with respect to racial segregation and initial widespread support of Vietnam. And then we have the 1960s progressed. Widespread tensions developed in the American society that tended to follow the generational lines regarding the war in Vietnam, race relations, sexual mores, women's rights, traditional modes of authority, and materialistic interpretation of American dream. Hippies became the largest countercultural group in the United States, and counterculture also had access to media, eager to represent their concerns for the wider public. Demonstrations for social justice created far-reaching changes affecting many aspects of society. The counterculture in the United States lasted roughly from 1964 to 1973, coinciding with the American involvement in Vietnam, and reached a peak in 1967, the Summer of Love. The movement divided the country. To some Americans, these attributes reflect the American ideals of free speech, equality, world peace, and pursuit of happiness. To others, the same attributes reflected the self-indulgent, pointless, rebellious, unpatriotic, and destructive assault on American traditional moral order. Counterculture collapsed in 1973, and many attributed to the collapse of the two major reasons. First, the most popular of political goals, civil rights, civil liberties, gender equality, environmentalism, and the end of Vietnam were accumulated. Second, decline of idealism, hedonic, occurred as many notable countercultural studies died and the rest settled in the mainstream society and started their own families, and the magic economy in the 1960s gave way to stagflation in the 1970s. This is the image of college university students walking together by Elliot. It's Elliot. This is some really great photography. Oh, that's nice. Oops, I removed that page, sorry. You ever want to share your pictures, you can here, but there's that legal code here about share and adapt. What is definitions? Well, cultural worlds, when you look at subcultures, it is a subculture, culture shared and actively participated by a minority of people within a broader culture. Some of the terms, like we said, could be interchangeable, like subculture, a portion of culture designated from a larger society around the custom of the features, symbolism, representation of a concept through symbols or identifying meanings of objects and qualities. Cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation is adoption of some specific elements of one culture by another cultural group. Techies. I used to watch Star Trek and Star Wars. This hand gesture meaning live long and prosper. Often recognized in mainstream culture. Can identify a subculture because of their style, maybe particular clothing and music, maybe adopted by mass culture for commercial purposes. Businesses seek to capitalize on the subversive allure of subcultures on each cool and remains valuable in selling a product. Process of cultural appropriation may result in the death or evaluation of a subculture, and members adopt new styles that appear alien in the mainstream society. I don't know if you guys remember Kat Von D. She is from LA, and she became Christian. But I used to watch her show when it was LA Inc. And I think she had New York Inc. before that. But she is into tattoos, and she was like into like new age and crystals and stuff too. But I used to watch her show all the time. She would do tattoos. She was a good artist, and she's kind of like gothic. Like she wears a lot of black and everything. Her hair is black, and I used to wear a lot of black too, so I can relate. And she just changed. Like she got baptized. She started going to some Baptist church in LA, and she's married with a little one now. So she's trying to, be a good example. And so she actually tried to have her tattoos removed, but because her whole body is like a tattoo, she had like a full body tattoo. It was really hard to do laser on the whole body. So if you see pictures of her right now, it's like she has like blacked out, like part of her body is just black. So she chose to tattoo her skin black. So because she said it was inappropriate tattoos and it's hard to remove them. Because she chose to have her whole body tattooed. It's very painful to remove it laserly, and they're having difficulty removing it. So my dad had a tattoo on his fingers that said wow, or MOM, mom, one way it's wow. And he had it removed. But he said back then they actually had to cut it out. So they cut like the top layer. So he has like scars on his knuckles, but nobody thinks anything because everybody's got scars. So you would think maybe he just hurt his hand. So a counterculture is a term describing the values and norms of a culture that run counter to the social media of the day. So they were mentioning about like maybe you're a hippie during the war, everybody around you is for the war, and maybe you're against the war. So counterculture is a sociological term that refers to a culture group or subculture whose values and norms and behavior run counter to those in the region's local mainstream. So it could be equivalent to a political opposition. United States, the counterculture of the 1960s was identified with the rejection of conventional social norms in the 1950s. Counterculture youth rejected the cultural standards of their parents, especially with respect to racial segregation and initial widespread support for Vietnam. 1960s regressed. Widespread tensions in American society tended to flow along the generational lines regarding the war in Vietnam. Race relations, sexual mores, and women's rights, traditional modes of authority, and materialistic interpretation of American dream. Hippies became the largest counterculture group in the United States. The counterculture also had access to media eager to represent their concerns for wider public. Demonstrations for social justice created a far-reaching change affecting many aspects of society. Hippies at the anti-Vietnam demonstration in the 1960s. A female demonstrator offers a flower to military police on the guard at the Pentagon during the anti-Vietnam demonstration. MP military police. So this is racial stereotyping. This is from a child's viewpoint.
IXL is helping 10 million students succeed in math and language arts.
Before I start my speech, I want to thank my parents, my family, and Miss Eisen for supporting me throughout the way. Hi, my name is Amelia. I want you all to look at this picture. The one on the left is the original, which is located in the Louvre in France. And the one on the right is a copy, which is located in El Prado in Spain. Now, if I do this, Would this be the same? I want you all to think about it. Is it the same? Stereotyping is a way to make information out of someone's appearance that might lead to the wrong view of the person, or an obstacle you simply place on other people, or a label on a picture. I am very lucky to attend to an international school where kids from several different countries go to school. I've decided to interview several students, teachers, and parents from our community to find differences and similarities. After this, I've come to a conclusion where yes, we all have differences. We all have differences, but we have a lot more in common. Even though we all speak different languages, we all look different, we have different beliefs, religions, perspectives, and traditions. We have a lot more in common. Even though we have a lot more in common, we all want to be heard. We all have fear of people rejecting us. We want people to, and most importantly, we want people to see us for who we really are, not a stereotype which is placed to our race. But when you understand these differences, it opens your mind. A power from under you rises up. A power that will take you a long way. A power that not everyone has. You become open-minded. And yes, we all have differences, but that's what makes us unique. But these differences shouldn't pull us apart from each other. They should bring us closer to each other. For each of us bringing our strengths together and making this world a better world. My school has shown me the importance of being open-minded, and I will always be grateful for this. And I can say that me and my fellow students have all become citizens of the world. Thank you very much.
IXL is helping 10 million students succeed in math.
So that concludes today. That's our last day, so make sure you upload all your assignments. You had 14 weeks of reading summary to do and 14 weeks of the videos, and also a midterm and a final. So make sure to turn everything in. All right, everybody, have a blessed Christmas and great New Year.